It's time to take a break. Susan Hayes shares shocking news with Days of Our Lives fans. Salem had seen its share of earthquakes, explosions at the docks, secrets detonating in living rooms, love affairs cracking the foundations of families that had stood for generations. But this time, the tremor didn't come from a villain's plot or a forbidden romance. It came softly, wrapped in a sentence that felt almost gentle until its weight landed. It's time to take a break. When Susan Hayes said those words, the town, and the fans who had followed her every eccentric step, felt the ground shift beneath them. The morning light filtered through the lace curtains of Susan Hayes' modest living room, painting the walls in pale gold. The house smelled faintly of chamomile tea and lemon cleaner, Susan's idea of peace in a town that rarely allowed it. She sat in her favorite armchair, legs tucked beneath her, glasses perched precariously on her nose as she reread the message on her phone. There it was again. The same words she had typed and deleted at least a dozen times before finally hitting send. It's time to take a break. Susan wasn't dramatic by nature, despite what anyone in Salem might say. She didn't thrive on shock or spectacle. She believed in intuition, in listening to the universe when it whispered before it had to scream. And lately, the universe had been whispering non-stop. Her fingers trembled slightly as she set the phone down. Outside, the familiar sounds of Salem drifted in. A car passing too fast, distant voices arguing about something that would surely spiral into chaos by nightfall. The town never slept. It barely even blinked. Susan closed her eyes. 4 years, decades, really, she had been at the center of it all. Love, loss, miracles, madness. Babies thought dead and returned alive. Families torn apart and stitched back together with secrets instead of thread. And through it all, she had stayed, guided by faith, by love, by a stubborn refusal to abandon the people she cared about. But now her heart felt heavy in a way it never had before. To many, Susan Hayes was an enigma, wide-eyed, spiritual, sometimes hilariously inappropriate, always sincere. She spoke of signs and destiny, of divine purpose and cosmic balance. Some dismissed her as eccentric. Others underestimated her. They all forgot one thing. Susan had survived. She had survived manipulation and heartbreak, grief that hollowed her out from the inside, and joy so overwhelming it nearly shattered her. She had lost children, found them again, and lost them once more in ways that left scars no one could see. Every smile she gave Salem came with a cost. In recent months, the weight had grown unbearable. Not because of one catastrophic event, but because of the accumulation, the endless cycle of crisis, recovery, and renewed chaos. Every time Susan felt she could finally exhale, something else happened. Another emergency. Another betrayal. Another reason to be strong when all she wanted was rest. Strength, she realized, had become her prison. The announcement didn't come through a dramatic press conference or a fiery confrontation at the town square. It came quietly, shared first with those closest to her. Susan sat across from Melina Evans in the familiar warmth of the psychiatrist's office. The walls were lined with books that had seen generations of Salem's residents come and go, broken and rebuilt. "I'm tired, Melina," Susan said softly, twisting her hands together. "Not the kind of tired a nap can fix." Melina studied her carefully, the way only someone who had spent a lifetime reading pain could. "What kind of break are you thinking about?" Susan hesitated. "The kind where I stop being everyone's miracle. The kind where I listen to my own heart for once." Word traveled fast in Salem. By afternoon, whispers filled the Brady pub, curled through the halls of the hospital, and echoed in D.I. Mera corridors thick with suspicion. Susan Hayes, leaving? Stepping back? The woman who always returned, no matter how far she wandered? Fans felt the shock ripple outward, social media lighting up with disbelief, sadness, and speculation. Was this temporary? Permanent? A goodbye disguised as self-care? Susan watched it all from a distance, heart aching but resolute. The hardest part wasn't deciding to take a break. It was facing the people she loved. Her conversations were private, emotional, and deeply human. With each person, Susan revealed a slightly different truth, not because she was hiding anything, but because love looks different depending on who's holding it. To one, she admitted she was afraid of becoming bitter. To another, she confessed she no longer recognized herself in the mirror. And to one person, her voice breaking, she said, "I don't want my life to just be survival anymore." Guilt followed her everywhere. Susan had always been the one who stayed. The one who forgave. The one who believed redemption was possible even when logic screamed otherwise. Leaving, even temporarily, felt like betrayal. But staying felt like slow erosion. For fans of Days of Our Lives, Susan Hayes wasn't just a character. She was comfort, chaos, comic relief, emotional anchor. She represented a rare combination: vulnerability without weakness, faith without cruelty, hope without denial. The news hit hard. Some fans mourned immediately, writing heartfelt messages about how Susan's journey mirrored their own struggles, how seeing her endure had helped them survive. Others were angry. Why now, they asked. Why her? And some, quietly, understood. Because sometimes the bravest thing a person can do isn't staying in the fight. It's stepping away before the fight consumes them. Susan never said she was leaving forever. That was the part many people missed. A break, to her, wasn't abandonment. It was recalibration. A chance to exist outside the constant state of emergency that defined Salem. A chance to wake up without dread, to drink her tea while it was still hot, to hear her own thoughts without interruption. She planned no grand adventure. No dramatic reinvention. Just rest. Just silence. Just space. In a town addicted to drama, that might have been the most radical choice of all. Before she left, Susan took a walk through the town that had shaped her. Past the places where she had laughed, cried, screamed, prayed. Every corner held a memory, some sweet, some sharp. At the town square, she paused, closing her eyes as if committing the moment to memory. "I'll be back," she whispered, not as a promise to others, but as reassurance to herself. Because breaks are not endings. They are pauses. And pauses, Susan knew, could be powerful. Susan Hayes' shocking news wasn't about disappearance. It was about permission. Permission to be human. To admit exhaustion. To choose oneself without apology. In a world, both fictional and real, that glorifies endurance above all else, Susan's choice felt revolutionary. 4 days of our lives, her absence would be felt like a missing heartbeat, subtle at first, then undeniable. For fans, her decision became a mirror, reflecting questions many were afraid to ask themselves. What if rest isn't weakness? What if stepping back is an act of faith? What if taking a break is the beginning of healing? Somewhere beyond Salem, Susan sat beneath an open sky, breathing deeply. The noise was gone. The expectations, quieted. For the first time in a long while, her heart felt light. She smiled, not because everything was fixed, but because she finally believed it could be. And in Salem, life went on. It always did. But now, there was space. Space for Susan Hayes to return one day, not as a savior, not as a symbol, but simply as herself. Because sometimes, the most shocking news of all isn't tragedy or scandal. It's choosing to rest. And trusting that the world, and the story, will wait.